Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm grateful to be joined today by my friend, Dr. Jackie Cruz, who is a part of Hartnell College, which is such a big part of this community. I'm fortunate to be a student there currently myself, and she's so much more to her story. But thank you so much for joining us, and would love to hear more about your story, kind of where you grew up and how you got to be where you are today.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Jordan. And I'll say a big hello to your audience. And I hope that they get something out of this conversation today.
Great. So obviously, you've been in the community for a long time in different capacities and part of a lot of initiatives, not just in the academic world, but also in the community. So where did you grow up? Here locally or kind of in the area?
Yeah, so I actually was born in Watsonville, California, and I moved to Salinas when I was 6 years old with my parents. My parents were farm workers most of their life. About 20 some years, they picked strawberries, but they pretty much were in all of the different agricultural communities. My dad cut lettuce, my mom worked in a nursery. So they kind of did the gamut, but spent most of their time in picking strawberries for Driscoll's companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My dad's side of the family came from Juarez and wound up working in agriculture in Watsonville as well.
Yeah.
So when we reconnected, I think from about three or four to about five or six, I lived in Watsonville as well. And then instead of Salinas, we moved to Castroville. So
I
similar
see.
pathways. But
Yeah. So, um, I love the fact that my parents would work here for 6, 7 months, and then we would go in the off season to Mexico. And so I had the opportunity to grow up bilingual and bicultural. And I was fortunate enough also to be in the school system where there was the bilingual education. And so I'm able to straddle both worlds that way. So I got to go to school in Mexico, got to go to school here, and very different, but that's part of my lived experience as well is traveling every year back and forth to Mexico to educational systems and
wow,
societies, right?
what an incredible, experience that many people in this region have had. I remember a lot of my friends, disappearing over Christmas time, usually maybe not half the year, but at least maybe during the holidays in the off season. And you're right, what a cultural experience. And talk about how it must have felt going from, being here and feeling a certain type of way, maybe amongst your other classmates or in the community that you lived in, and then going back to Mexico and kind of what were some of those dynamics just socially?
Oh my God. So this is kind of an interesting dynamic. So here we lived in low income apartments. If you're from Watsonville, you're gonna know this. We lived in Local Park over
Hmm.
by Front Street and close to the bridge. And it was low income housing. And so here, I guess when I was a little girl, I didn't realize, it was low income housing. But I did know that we didn't have that many resources because we used to go to Salvation Army, we used to go to the food bank. I
Right.
love those big loaves of the big things of butter and the big things of cheese for those of you that
Yeah.
remember those days.
Yep.
But then going to Mexico, I remember being well off over there, right? Because
Right.
we had American money, and that represented, we had that basically compounding effect
Different
of
buying
our
power.
money here. Yeah, the
Yeah.
value of the dollar. And so we would go there, and we were very well off, and we had a little store, a little business.
Mm.
And so my sister Maricela, she actually sold candy, so she was a little entrepreneur since like she was 6. And so I saw entrepreneurship since I was a little girl. I think that has a lot of effect still today to the way I operate. But yeah, it was very interesting. Different worlds, right? Low income here, well off. You could say maybe, I don't know, middle class over there, or lower middle class over there. Certainly felt abundance, and then over here, kind of going, oh, okay, it's a different world. In the
Yeah, it's all about
educational,
context.
yeah, exactly. In the educational system, I remember this specifically because if I was in second grade here, I would go in first grade over there. And
Okay.
the math and the math was more advanced over there. So
Oh,
I
wow.
always remember having to be placed a grade lower. I don't know if that's research based, like if I were to do research on the mathematics and the placement over there, but I know that that was a real thing.
Well, one difference, kids around the world, besides the US and maybe one or two other places, all know the metric system as well. And so when you travel and you don't understand the metric system, it can be very confusing, even though it makes so much more sense in factors of 10. Here in the US, we use factors of 12 and we use miles and we use all these different things to forms of measurement that it's hard to convert in our head. I obviously traveling to Mexico, but also I lived in Canada right after high school, and there the metric system as well. So I had a little bit of a experience with that. And folks in Mexico and Canada, because of their proximity to the US, not only do they have to be bilingual, they also have to understand both math systems.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit on food and culture. One thing when we got to Mexico, I felt like my parents were treated like celebrities, and we used to get invitations to a different house every day.
Wow.
So we were there, and it was like, okay, today we're gonna go to El Chaparros, or today we're gonna go, and they all have nicknames, you know.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go to this house, and so every time we were there, we were very welcome. Lots of food, right? Special dishes created for our family. So I think food, happiness, joy, that siesta time. As you know, the hours of work over there are very different.
Right.
And so like at 10 a.m. they're having their almuerzo,
Yep.
their lunch. And then at 2 they break again. And then I think, by 5 everybody's is done. And then
Well, that sun is no joke.
yeah, and then after 7, everybody's out.
Hmm.
Like everybody's out. So communities and everybody they're out selling stuff and walking and everything. So here is a little bit different where,
Right.
after work, there's not a lot of people out walking in the street in every street. Over there is very vibrant. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the plazas and all the music and all
The
the different things
plazas,
going
the
on.
music, yeah,
Yeah, a
the
lot of the
music.
American culture is kind of based on the Industrial Revolution and that kind of 9 to 5, grind, that doesn't leave a lot of time for much else. Also, the further north you go, the darker it gets. You have less daylight during different points of the year, right? So that's kind of why people are a little bit grumpier in some of those places where it's cold and dark for more of the year, right? It's pretty interesting, that dynamic you mentioned about the different cultures, the different educational systems, and really feeling like in this realm, so to speak, you maybe were in low income housing or were in maybe not the best schools, and then over here you guys are celebrities and you're the talk of the
Right, right.
town, and you know that's an interesting dynamic and a great perspective, because some folks um, decided that they wanted to stay here and really try to make it here and advance here. Other people knew that, hey, no matter what I do, like I'm never going to have here what I could have there. So if I have to work hard for 6 months to live great for the other 6 months or whatever, I mean, everyone had a different purpose and different, goal. But it's interesting to hear that perspective, that they almost intentionally preferred that lifestyle and made those sacrifices in order to do that. And maybe they didn't care as much about advancing here. They were more interested in quality of life back home.
Perhaps because they were very intentional about saving money and investing it over there in their store, and buying properties, wherever they could. They did actually buy 2 houses here. So even as a farm worker before, you could afford,
Mm-hmm.
properties here. Because I
Yep.
remember my parents' first house here in Salinas, I want to say it was $70,000, and in East Salinas. And now of course, those times
Yeah.
have gone, but they were able to buy 2 properties here and next to each other. And so that was a blessing as well. But they mostly dedicated their money to their business in Mexico, and then
Yeah.
properties in Mexico. Yeah.
And how do you feel knowing that, I think for a certain generation, maybe for, Gen X and millennials, or maybe even boomers, it was the goal was the American dream, right? Whatever that was once upon a time, to buy the house and have the kids and go to college and start a business or whatever. And in a lot of ways nowadays, that seems out of reach for a lot of people for various reasons. We can blame it on different political establishments or different economic forces, but it almost feels like the American dream that we thought of before is more opportunity in Mexico now than even here in the US. Because, like you said, there's no entry level homes. It's harder to buy property. The wages haven't kept up with inflation. So, one of the ways to combat that is education, which obviously you've dedicated your career to. What was your educational path once you got out of elementary? Where did you go to high school?
Oh my God. Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit, we're gonna go all over the place in this one,
That's
okay?
fine. Yeah.
Because my path was not a linear path. And so I spoke a little bit about my youth and the experience going back and forth in Mexico. This was when my family was, I would say, good and stable. There were certain things that happened in our lives, and particularly the loss of a sister that was 1 year younger than me,
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
really triggered. Thank you. That really triggered my mom's path to change, and as a result of her path changing, then the trajectory of all of our paths. So my mom unfortunately felt depressed and also started drinking, and eventually led to her abusing drugs, and that really changed her course. And then my parents, they split, they divorced, and all of our family sort of disintegrated.
Mm,
And all of my sisters, we ended up, except for the oldest one, we all ended up sort of in streets and in gangs and things like that. And this was in the early 90s, as you may remember how
yeah.
Salinas was. And unfortunately, we were, really perceived a very violent city. And so we sort of, that was the times that I'm talking about. And I think that really had a big effect on my life, my family, my sisters. And so I dropped out of school. I went to seventh grade for maybe a couple of days to Alsasel, and then I basically just I wasted a few years of my life, involved in many negative things. I was a really lost soul. I would say I was a lost little girl. I was hopeless. I was angry, and
Mm,
I took really bad paths, and I made a lot of bad decisions as a young little girl. And so that took me into court and juvenile hall, and I ended up in front of a judge, and the judge said, it's either group home in Sacramento, or my dad showed up actually and said I can take her to Mexico. So I left to Mexico for 2 years.
oh, wow.
And so when I came back as a young teenager, still I came back, but I was already pregnant, and this was a little bit before I turned 15 years old. So I have a son that is a grown adult. I'm very proud of my son, and I'm very proud that I didn't give up on life after having been through a lot, and that I was able to go back to school. But before I went back to school, I joined the workforce, and it was through joining the workforce that where I was encouraged by my bosses to go back to school. So
Mm,
first I got a job at an industry place called Spacecraft Industry. It was a tech company out in Watsonville that built motherboards for airplanes. And so I got my first taste of the corporate workforce, and that was awesome. And then they closed down the plant in Watsonville because they had a plant in Silicon Valley. They closed down the one in Watsonville. Got to experience my first sort of layoff, massive layoff. And I sort of was with my eyes wide open. I was 16, 17 years old. I was there for 2 years. And I saw, all the people that were really crying and devastated when they were being laid off. There was a lot of Mexicans and Filipinos working in that tech company, and this is what they had done for many years. So they were
yeah.
very sad, and it was a hard thing to watch, but an early experience to seeing people lose their jobs, right? I think all those
Mm,
experiences help build you, make you stronger. And so after they closed, I was able to go to United Way, which was my first professional nonprofit job. I fell in love with it, and there my boss was a PhD. He was a PhD sociology, David Summers, and he said, you really need to go to school. And so first they hired me. They said you need to get a driver's license, you need to take some computer skills, and you need to finish your GED, And so I did all those three things in 3 months. And
Wow.
then after that was done, then he said, why don't you go check out Hartnell College? And United Way was located on 154 Central here in Salinas, and Hartnell is 411 Central, so it's super close.
Yeah.
That was sort of how I got into Hartnell. Took 17 units my first semester. I loved it, and I just started to work really, really hard. Also at United Way, continue to get promoted. It got to the point where I couldn't keep up my full-time load
Mm.
at Hartnell, but I always kept on going, taking, 6 units at a time or whatever, evening, Saturday classes, etc. Then finished that up, took 2 years off, then came to work for Hartnell. And then when I got here to Hartnell, I realized that I needed a bachelor's degree. So I went into Chapman University, got my bachelor's. There was a lot happening in between, but long story short, did my bachelor's, did my MBA at Chapman. And then just recently, last year, I completed my doctorate at USC. And so that has been my educational journey. It's been a
Wow.
long one, but I've never stopped working. I've always been a full-time employee and some level of part-time or full-time student as well.
Wow. Well, that's an incredible journey, incredible story. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I know there's probably more, obviously a lot more to the story in between some of those highlights, but yeah, my dad had a similar experience, working in agriculture, started working in tech at Seagate in Scotts Valley, and then
Yeah.
laid off in the mid 90s, and all that comes with that, all the change, and you're right, kind of got to see it firsthand, have a negative effect, and drugs and alcohol as well in our family, and family members in and out of the system, and family members that are in law enforcement, and everything kind of in between. And it's interesting how one event can have a domino effect, right? Whether it's the death of a loved one, or whether it's incarceration or addiction, and the opposite is true as well. One graduate can change the line of their family of education and making it important. My older brother was the first to graduate college, and I think I'll be the second of my siblings. So I was always good in school, but just didn't really make it a priority. After I graduated, I took a different path and traveled and worked in different industries that didn't necessarily require a degree. But I just realized I got to a certain point. Unfortunately, my mom passed at a young age, and she was only 52, and I'm going to be 41 next week. And I thought, you know what? There's a bunch of things I've been wanting to do that I haven't done, that I should probably get to it, just in case. I mean, who knows how long we
Yeah.
all have, right? And it's just kind of like I felt like I didn't want to leave anything on the table. And so education was one of those things I wanted to accomplish. So you've
Yeah.
had an amazing journey. I mean, sometimes people say, sometimes the hardest steps are the first ones, right? And even though you probably would say that getting your PhD was a lot of work and very challenging, especially from a great school like USC, but I'm sure getting your driver's license, getting your GED, maybe at the time seemed equally as difficult, right?
Correct. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for sharing that about, and I'm sorry about your mom. I do think that when we lose somebody unexpectedly, it gives us a very different context of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I do share that sense of urgency of getting things done with you. I lost my mom due to drugs and alcohol use. And then I lost my sister, who also fell into methamphetamine use. She was schizophrenic, and she self-medicated with meth, and she didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
They
Sorry.
passed away very close to each other,
Oh,
only a year apart. And so and then just a few years ago, my friend Alfred Diaz Infante, who I just love dearly, and he
oh,
was
he's
one of my
amazing.
mentors.
Yes.
Like, losing three people that are
Oh,
so key in your life just gives you, people may not understand, why are you in such hurry, why do you press on for this project, or why are you so passionate about what you do? Well, there is this sense of, we have so much time to get the work done here in life,
tomorrow's
and
not promised.
just
Yeah.
do it. Like, when we live with purpose, and that purpose is so clear in our minds and in our hearts. And then when we know that we are touching people's lives in a certain way, to support our community, I think that that is why we have this sense of we have to get this done. Let's go, let's go, let's go, you know. And some people may not understand that, but I think
Totally.
losing people,
Yeah.
it does give us a different way
No,
of
I
seeing
share that
life.
with you, that sense of urgency and that sense of just focusing on what matters when you're faced with tragedy or unexpected drastic change. It really puts it into perspective, and you think, wow, this thing that I used to make such a big deal, now it doesn't seem like such a big deal now that this happened or this person's gone or whatever. So I can definitely totally relate to that. And one of those things for me was finally going back to school, and I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so grateful that I did Hartnell. It's been great. It's been a great resource. It's been I don't know. I remember my first class, and I was in there. I'm same age as my professor, first of all, and then second of all,
It's
I'm
just,
in there with
you're
a
like,
bunch
hey,
of
I can teach you a
you know
couple of things.
a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds who molded up to be their dad, and which is
Oh,
weird.
that's so
And
cool.
then also clearly they don't care about the class. They're just like trying to get through it, right? And I actually was like interested in not all of them, but for the most part, when you're just at a high school, all you care about is your friends and having a good time. You're not really thinking seriously about critical thinking and these old books that we were reading. um, but it was great
I
to
don't
kind of
know.
ease my way into it and see all that was available and just the resources that are there. And so what my experience has been, all the professors, all the staff, they really want to see you win. They really want to help promote the resources that are available. And I was one of those people that like just put it off, and like in the back of my mind I always wanted to do it, but I just for whatever reason always found an excuse, or it was never the right time, or whatever it was. And I just want to encourage people, like whatever it is, but just locally here, because a lot of the people that listen to this are local. Like, dude,
Oh yeah.
if you have not finished school, or you started, you didn't finish, or you never started, it is never too late. And start at Hartnell or MPC or wherever, because the amount of resources and support you get is incredible. And you can do it all online, but something about local that you can maybe do a hybrid that is really helpful,
Mhm.
because there you are going to be questions. You are going to be rusty. I mean, I went to write my first paper and I realized I hadn't written a paper in over 20 years. And
That's
and
funny.
and being able to talk like this is one thing. Being able to write a college level paper is a whole other thing, right?
Yes.
So talk about how, obviously Hartnell made a big difference in your life as a student and in your early
Sure.
career. But now that you're in leadership, now that you're one of the top people on campus, what is your perspective, and what are some of the initiatives you're working on, keeping who
Sure.
you were when you started in mind?
Yes. Okay. So I think you asked me something earlier, and I want to make sure those micro successes, the little successes,
Mm,
are what makes you gain confidence, and then that confidence, time after time after time,
mm,
then helps you build self-efficacy. And
yeah,
self-efficacy is where you basically become resilient,
yeah,
where even if life comes, and throws you down, right, with another death or with another thing, that you know that you've got the what it takes to get it done. And so it's a little bit different than confidence, because with confidence helps you get there, and resiliency and self-efficacy helps you get to the other side, right?
I love
And
that.
so those micro wins, those micro successes are what builds that. And I think early on, even just completing the first semester, and I ended up in the dean's list here at Hartnell, unimaginable. From having been in juvie, having been even in Mexico,
Amazing.
stepping in jail in Mexico, like I mean, it was from being hopeless, no light in my life, thinking that it wasn't worth living because I was so upset about things
Yeah,
that I had seen, a lot of
justifiably so.
trauma,
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
trauma. And then and getting to a win, going, oh my God, I found a place here. Like there was a sense of belonging and a sense of winning. And there was another whole like different world that was presented to me. So I see all of the things that we innovate here at Heart Now with that same approach, that students come from different walks of life, different contexts, some better off psychosocially, and others in a lot more need, but they all come here with hope that they're
mm,
going to make their life even better, um, or with hope that this place may actually get them that beacon of opportunity. So the first thing that I will say that transformed the way that I lead was to see the computer science and 3-year baccalaureate degree that we have here at Hartnell and CSUMB. That program, I got to see it from its inception, from Mr. Andy Matsui at Matsui Nursery, who pledged the money to give every student a full ride.
Wow.
And I saw how our faculty, we had 2 faculty, I will always honor them, Joe Welsh and Dr. Satya Narayan at CSUMB. They got together and they created this 3-year baccalaureate degree that would eliminate the debt the students would get into. Then they had this scholarship,
Wow.
and it was all recruiting students from our local high schools to get into computer science.
I
This
love that.
was over 12 years ago when computer science was not well known in our schools. In fact, Carmel School was the only high school that had computer science in it. We were still teaching mostly keyboarding and basic computer skills in the rest of our high schools. Now all the high schools have computer science. So I got to see how 3 people, right, with of course the support from all of us and the presidents and everything, could make such a significant change in our community. And so that inspired me. If they could do that, we can do other things. So when we started the Salinas Valley Promise, now there's 1,300 students in that program coming into it every year. They receive textbook support, laptop, peer mentor, wraparound services, workshops, professional development. It really is a way to support the students so that they don't give up, and that they stay encouraged to finish in 2 years, or at least 2 to 3 years, because we want to make sure
Yeah.
that students are able to accelerate their success so that they
Yeah.
can increase their earning power and their economic mobility sooner, right?
I love that. And I respect anyone's choice to either not go to college or join the military, or let's say you want to go out of state because you've always dreamed of going to a particular school, or maybe you're a legacy and you want to go to a certain college because your parents went there, or you're an athlete, or whatever the reason, or maybe they're a specialized major. But if you're not sure what you want to do, or if you're sure but you're not necessarily married to any one particular school or location, if you are from Monterey County and you have the opportunity to live locally, stay at home, and save some money, I mean, the pathway to the Salinas Valley Promise, or at least do your first 2 years here at a local community college. I mean, the I understand the social dynamics and wanting the full experience and the Greek life, and I get all that, and it's really promoted on movies and TV. I get all that. You can still go to those parties
Yeah,
if you go to Hartnell or NPC, right?
sure.
I, to me, I mean, again, I'll cross that bridge if I ever come to it with my own kids. I don't have them yet, but I would say for like my nieces and nephews and my friends' kids, I'm like, dude, stay home, save money, go to Hartnell, and it'll give you such a great head start, zero debt, and you knock your first 2 3 years out, and you're ready to go to the next level. And I would say stay in state, because unless you have a very specific reason to be at another college, why would you pay out of state tuition? Why would you do that?
Right. Right. So I think one thing that a lot of people don't know is that our professors have to have a master's degree in their subject area, which is also what the universities ask for. So there is no difference in qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
Our professors are well qualified, they're master degree or above, and they're just great people. The other thing is the smaller classes. So community colleges have
Yep.
smaller classes. And then there's this just whole feel around being supported at the community college
Mm-hmm.
level and actually developing relationships with your professors
Yep.
because the classes are smaller. So I think there's a lot of wins if you go to a community college. Economically speaking, it's a very smart way to go. I think class-wise, attention-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is one thing that probably most people don't know about Hartnell College. We have partnerships with universities. We have partnerships with UC, Santa Cruz. We have partnerships with CSUMB. We have partnerships with Arizona State. We have partnerships with U of A. We have partnerships with all kinds. San Jose College. Fresno actually gives preferential priority to our students.
Awesome.
So there's just so much here. And then the other thing is internships. paid internships, I say it's the new scholarship, because it is not enough to just go to school. It is great when you have school and hands-on, because it's applied learning. Learn something, apply it, learn something,
Yeah.
apply it, so that it really just it's really profound what that does to you. And so I'm a big believer and supporter of raising money for internships, so that we can pay the students in what we call earn and learn, right? Earn and
Yeah.
learn.
I love that.
And we have one of the largest research internship programs in the country, which means that our students are placed over the summer in research labs, companies that are doing fantastic research in ag and in other spaces. We have partnerships with NASA. We have partnerships with, again, many universities and institutions. So that program, anywhere from 60 students to 90 students per year are actually in those internships.
Well,
And
I didn't know until the last few years that Hartnell had expanded to South County and to North County, which
Mhm.
were, being from Castroville, it's really cool to see campus there in town. And I hope more and more students take advantage of that, of all ages and all backgrounds.
Yeah.
But I got a chance, because I'm part of Leadership Monterey County this year, I got a chance to tour your facility in Alisal, and
Oh.
the ag tech and the mechanical and the welding division that you have there, all the different trades and programs that you have there, incredible. Because a lot of folks, they're not going to go on to get their PhD, they're not going to be teachers. They want to work with their hands, they want to get into the trades, and that's another route that is supported through Hartnell College, which is such an important, especially in the agricultural industry or in the mechanical industry. Those skills are invaluable. Though a lot of those jobs are not going to be replaced by AI or by it can't be outsourced overseas. So those skills are super valuable, and I love that Hartnell also offers that side of things as well.
Oh, that's huge. So that's probably the latest project that I'm involved in, is really supporting ag and ag tech. But before I go there, I want to make sure that people know we have one of the largest welding facilities, training facilities in the state.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very awesome mechatronics program, which is a combination of robotics, mechanical, and electric engineering, and all infused in one. And that is applicable to the aviation industry, to the advanced air mobility industry, or to ag and ag tech. So you can use that degree and go and work in different spaces and places where they're doing automation, and where they're doing any of this mechanical work. So I think that's important. The trades are so important. I think there was a recent research study that talked about the different kinds of millionaires, and they were talking about how many millionaires across the country are really people in the trades that then started their business in that expertise. So,
Yep.
so first of all, if
Plumbing,
you're
HVAC, yeah,
exactly
building,
HVAC,
yeah,
plumbing, construction,
yeah.
any of those businesses, that we all need to get those things done. And you know how hard it is to get somebody to come like right away. Remember, we have to bring people from Silicon Valley
Oh
to
yeah.
come and do the work here,
Mm-hmm.
which is, and then we get priced out of the work. So I think it's important. That's a great opportunity for all of us to be thinking about in terms of
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship. Yeah, for
Definitely. Well,
sure.
you know, I'm hopefully a lot of people get the chance to hear this, because if they see you on campus and they see your title and they see you giving a speech, they might not know your actual story and everything that you've overcome to get where you are. So I appreciate you sharing with us that with me today, and it just gives more perspective. I mean, I already had so much respect and appreciation for you, but knowing everything about your story is it's incredible. So you've achieved so much, overcome so much. Now, what is this, your current kind of, what does the next chapter look like? What are some things you're excited about moving forward?
Yeah, so two things. I think we're very focused, and I'd like to really make a difference in ag and ag tech, because I think that is going to transform the quality of jobs in Monterey County. I'm working with a VC guy that
Oh,
a
Danny
lot of
Bernstein.
people know. Yeah, Danny
Yeah.
Bernstein, and
Yeah.
and he has become a very trusted friend of mine. And we work together, talk very frequently here, and we have put our, sort of our life's purposes are sort of converging, right? He has maybe different motivations, I have different motivations, but at the end of the day we converge, and so joining forces has been really fun. So we're working on launching the reservoir farms, which will be located here on Highway 68. Very close, just exiting, where the old McShane's is? I think it's
Yeah.
now Granite. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
right across from there, that's where the incubator, it's gonna
Oh,
be
great.
an on-farm ag tech incubator. And we hope that ag tech companies from around the world will want to be seated here to create jobs and opportunities. And of course, my dream is that some of our computer science graduates and some of our STEM majors and some of our ag and ag tech majors and our business majors want to also delve into entrepreneurship through this opportunity so that they can start their own businesses. Imagine the power of having local people that know what the ag industry is about
Mm.
and that have the love and passion for cultivating food and basically feeding the world and
Yep.
doing it in a way that increases the quality jobs and increases the productivity and
Absolutely.
increases the source of that food all
Well,
over the country.
we lose a lot of our best talent in the agricultural or tech space to, Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo or to UC Davis or even to Fresno State in some cases. But it's exciting to see that, CSUMB and Hartnell together with partners like Reservoir are going to be able to compete with some of those schools and bring in some of their talent or keep some of our own homegrown, pun intended, to help lead this revolution. Obviously, the proximity to Silicon Valley, is a big part of that. The history of the Pajaro and Salinas Valley is a big part of that. So I'm excited to see people like taking pride in that and making this like, not just somewhere that you grow up and then leave, but actually somewhere that you want to stay. Obviously, housing and politics and water are big issues that we have to figure out to make all of that possible. But I love that ambition. And sometimes it takes a bigger vision or a bigger dream to supersede those issues and kind of just they can get swept up in the wave in the positive sense of like the momentum and the resources that are going to come as a result of that attention. Those investments can hopefully help solve a lot of those other issues as well.
Right. And one of the other things about that, so I was challenged. I went to I think it was during a California Economic Summit investor exchange pitch where we were talking about the reservoir and the work that we're doing with Hartnell. We formed something called the Salinas Valley Ag Tech Alliance to address and work on this opportunity. But when I was pitching it, I was approached by somebody that was from the San Joaquin area. And he said, I have mixed feelings about your project. And I said, well, tell me more. He says, what about all the people that, are not going to have jobs anymore because the hard, backbreaking jobs are not going to be around anymore, or at least up to the same level. And I said, okay, let's talk. And so he inspired me to um, create a more comprehensive approach where with Danny and all of our Salinas Valley Ag Tech Alliance, excuse me, we're not just looking at the new workforce, we're also looking at the current workforce and retraining them or upskilling them.
Yes.
And it's going to be possible to retrain and upskill some of them into
Right.
ag and ag tech, and then some of them to train into other areas,
Yeah.
right? This is where,
Absolutely.
again, the trades come in once again, other opportunities,
Yes.
entrepreneurship, small business development, all of that has to be comprehensive because our
Yes.
community is going to change and we can't just, you know, duck our heads
Right.
and then just say, like it's not happening. But
Right.
we're smart enough, resilient, and we've got the roots to say, look, we can actually create a plan and we can work on it, and we don't need this to be a crisis. This could be a real awesome community project where we
Yes.
all come in together and we help the current incumbent worker and the future workforce.
I love that. And I think it takes leaders like yourself who understand both sides of the equation. Because yeah, a lot of times at these investor meetings or these conferences, it can be very the human element is missing. It's easy to talk about technology and it's easy to talk about money and forget the real stories of the people who have, you know, lived and died and made all of these things possible, who have paved the way, and we stand on their shoulders, right? And so I think there is a way to honor their legacy while also understanding the reality that it's going to change whether you like it or not. So you have an
It's
opportunity
coming.
to be
Yeah.
part of that in a positive way, or you're going to get run over by it in a negative way. So like you said, it's going to take people like yourself who are in positions of leadership, who are bilingual, bicultural, who can understand the nuance and the fear, maybe in the community of the people who feel like they might be getting replaced, and say, no, you're not getting replaced. You have an opportunity to upgrade. And you may or may not be able to participate in that, but we're going to at least give you the opportunity or help share the information. And what you do with it is up to you. But these changes are coming whether we like them or not. And I, for one, would rather be having those conversations, even with people that maybe I disagree with. Like you said, I have mixed feelings about this. We all do. We all have mixed feelings about
Mhm.
artificial intelligence. We all have mixed feelings about outsourcing of labor. We all have mixed feelings about all of it. So it's going to take coming to the table, having difficult conversations, and hopefully good intentions, and working together to find solutions, because like you said, it's happening with or without us. So I'd rather be at the table having those discussions.
Yes, and in San Antonio, when Levi's, I think it was Levi's that left San Antonio, there was a big crisis because there was, I think, a 10,000, 10,000 workers laid off or whatever during that time. And there was a crisis in the community. And I'm thinking to myself, we know ag tech is moving. We know now with AI things are moving even faster. There's no need to be in crisis. Like we need to be able to figure this out, and we can. And slowly but surely we will be working. We have a 5-year plan right now to retrain workers, and we have a plan also to increase the skill set of those that want to be. And then also we're developing new programs with certifications, working with Western Growers Association and a whole bunch of innovators as well in the nonprofit community-based space.
Awesome.
And we want to include more people. But the other opportunity really is in the healthcare industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
I still see there is still a need for nurses, respiratory care practitioners, and the gamut of healthcare careers. They're well paid. We have great employers in this county and in the region that need local people. A lot of them are still bringing people from different parts of the world to fill in those positions. And we need to be able to increasingly train the workforce in that area. And those are, again, quality jobs, which is
Right.
another part that I'm excited about and
Yep.
that I'm working with our dean here, Deb Casmar, who I love, and just with a whole bunch of partners on that as well.
Well, Jagge, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your personal story, which was very impactful, for sharing your current projects and passions and your vision for the future. I think there's a reason why we're friends. I have a lot of similar background, similar passion for the future, and I'm happy to do anything I can to support you. And please count me in as far as a partner in all of this. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm excited to be a part of it, and proud to have watched it from afar. And now as a student, and hopefully soon as a graduate, I want to contribute however I can. So thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to continue the conversation.
Can't wait to see your what's next for you as well. Thank you, and thanks for putting up with my dry cough here.
Oh, it's all good. It's all
We
good.
got through it. Thank you so
We got
much.
through it. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We'll be in touch. Take
Take
care.
care. Bye-bye.